Hi everyone, welcome back to Dalry Models. In this video I'm going to be going through using some carbon fibre decals, and I'm going to be making a template for the clutch cover for the RC211V that I'm currently building. So for this one I'm actually going to use the Scale Motorsport carbon fibre twill weave in 1/20th scale, which is just the plain sheet that you get. But one tip is, if you get a template pattern where you've got the pieces to cut out, is to save these, even though I've cut most of it out. For small pieces like this, there's plenty of areas on that you can create masks from, so it's well worth keeping these, and some of them have plenty left on them. But looking at my reference photos, if you look here, you can actually see a colour difference, and this one is noticeably darker, and that looks more accurate for my reference photos, so that's the one I'm going to be using for this. So the first thing that we want to do is create a mask for that. So if we get some masking tape, you don't need loads, and carefully put that on there, and then start to work around it. And if I just push it down like that, you can see that I'm going to get loads of creases in it. But what we want to try and do is, if we work it, there is a bit of stretch in this, so sort of work it down with your nail or cocktail stick or something, and you'll get a fairly flat surface then. So you've got an accurate guide for the mask. So a fresh blade for cutting masking tape, because you don't want it to rip. So I'm going to just cut that across there. And masking tape and paper or anything will blunt your knife blade pretty quick, so make sure you keep fresh blades around for stuff like this, for these sort of jobs. So just makes it a little bit easier for handling and working with this. But you can see that a lot of the creases are coming out now. I'm not worried about that big one at the bottom there, because it's not going to be used on this part. And the setting solutions that you use for the decals will sort out well on the decals anyway, because they have got some more they're easier to work with than the masking tape. The masking tape doesn't really design to stretch or anything. So cut that off like that, and you can see that I've got the masking tape for the most part around the edge and most of the creases out. So that's our template for the shape that we want to use. So find a corner of your sheet and try and get it as close to the edge as possible, so that you're not wasting loads of it. And then carefully, what I'm going to do is leave a bit of an overlap, so that I've got some play in it, some movement, and the same on the back. I'm going to leave a bit of an overlap there. So depending what sort of part that you're doing, you could get away with just doing that freehand, doing it by eye. So I'm going to get some blue tack to hold it, because it'll make life a lot easier than trying to do something without getting my fingers in it. So get a bit of blue tack behind it. Get a cocktail stick. I don't want the blue tack to interfere with it, so I'll just push that back, make sure it's not covering it. So now I can hold it. So if you wanted to do a reverse decal, if you're doing, let's say for instance, you want to do one for the inside panel on that, so you mask it off and cut your decal out, but then you want to do the one for the opposite fairing. So if they're symmetrical, easiest thing to do, take the masking tape off what you've just cut, put it on the reverse side and cut it out, and then you've got a mirror image of the masking tape that you're using. So I'll get the masking tape off that because I don't need that now. And then I've got some water over here, and there's nothing special about that water, just tap water, nothing in it because it doesn't need it, not any special temperature, that's been sat there for about a week. So get the decal wet, take it out and leave it on your bench for a bit to soften up. One of the things I've heard is that leaving it soaking in the water for too long can start to wash away the adhesive or whatever it is on the back of the decal that helps it stick. And I don't know how much truth there is in that, but I have noticed when they've been worked too much with water that they do sometimes lose a bit of stickiness and they get harder to work with. So my preference is to take it out of the water, let it sit on the bench, and typically once it's no longer cooled up, it's time that you can work with it. But with the Scale Motorsports one, they do go pretty quick. So I'll just leave that for a little bit just to soften up, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I left that for a few minutes now. So the next thing I'm going to do is get some microset from Microscale Industries and put it on the part. So a quick tip is if you get one of the Tamiya rolls of masking tape, one of the thicker ones, then these bottles fit perfectly inside, because these are notorious for getting knocked over and then you just lose all the contents, which obviously isn't very good. So that's obviously loose enough now that it's going to come off the backing paper. So it's not been there very long, just a few minutes as I said. So I'm just going to put some of this on there just so that it's got something to get against, and then peel that off and place it on there. And I want a little bit of an overlap on the underside. And then what we do is we get a hairdryer and we'll start warming it up. So this just helps the process for the set solution to do what it needs to do. You could just sit there and leave it for it to dry, but then every time you come back to it you're going to have to work it a bit and you risk getting more wrinkles in doing it that way. So I prefer to use the hairdryer to speed the process up, and it means that I can have control over what's happening with it rather than just leaving it and not knowing. So obviously as soon as I turn it on you can see that it started pushing it down, which isn't a problem, but I just want to work on this top area for now. So what I'll do is I'll keep working with this and get it to sit down nicely. I don't want that going too far under because I don't want wrinkles. So just keep applying a bit of heat, a bit more set solution. And just keep working it. What we want to do is get this to conform to that shape. And what the microset does is it just softens the decal a little bit, just enough for it to be able to do that. But I want to make sure that that top part stays nice and flat, because that's the bit that you're going to see the most. So going to do all this live. I'm going to break the recording up so you can actually see the process. So a bit like we did with the masking tape, just keep making sure that we get rid of these wrinkles. So I'm going to switch over to the microsol now, which is the second part of it's basically the setting solution helps it to bite, gives it a bit more gluing effect, and the microsol actually melts the decal to help it conform. So if we start putting this on, decal will go a lot softer, and these wrinkles will start to disappear. So again, I'm just going to put it on the top for now, because that's the bit that I want to be perfectly flat. You can see that that's starting to fold over on the edges now, so I just want to keep working that. Make sure that with these that we don't get these creases in there. Because that's just going to ruin it. And you can see very, very carefully, because we don't want to tear the decal. But we can work with it. You can see there that it's getting a bit stretchy now. And that's the microsol doing its job and actually melting the decal. So this is how you get rid of all of the creases. And one of the advantages that you have, you can see I just getting the creases out. One of the advantages you have with the carbon fibre decals is that because it's got a pattern to it with a line, you can work the creases into that pattern so that they're less visible. So I'm just going to keep working that down, keep that top bit nice and flat as well. And just keep working at it like that. But the microsol works really well with the scale motorsport decals. The decals really respond well to it and allow you to work with it. So you can see, because of the shape of it, that you're going to get a little bit of wrinkling. There's hardly anything there, and then just keep working it and get as much of it out as you can. Try and keep it as smooth as you can, and try and keep the if you do get a crease that you can't get rid of, try and get it to go with the pattern to reduce the visibility of it. got these sections on the ends in the centre where it's got the rivets, and obviously I want to get that. Sorry, gone off camera. Just stroking that around the edges there so that it conforms nicely. But you've got this section in the centre here where there's actually some rivet detail, so we want to make sure that it sits nicely into there, and the same on the side as well. So it looks like I'm putting loads of this on, but it is drying fairly quickly with a hairdryer, so I'm not too fussed about that. But I'm doing this as one segment on the video so that you can actually see the process, rather than sort of breaking it up saying, right, I'm going to do this bit and then go off, come back and say, right, that's that bit done, and then this is the next bit, and then you don't actually see the magic happening. And that's the whole point of this video really for me, is to allow you to see that process. So that's where I'm going to stop at this point. So hopefully you can see there that there's a couple of small wrinkles on either side, which you're going to be hard pressed to not get those, but you can see the process that I used to work it. But for overall, it's gone down smoothly, and then that top piece, as I said, is nice and flat, which is a bit that you're going to focus your attention on anyway. So I'll let that sort of fully cure, and then it'll be clear coated. But with this microsole, you can actually, if you put masking tape on it once it's dry, it won't peel the decal off, and it wasn't over a smooth surface, it was on sort of semi-gloss black, and again, there's no silvering or anything. Carbon fibre decals tend to be quite good for that anyway, but even normal decals, they if you apply them properly, you shouldn't have any problems, and if you follow that method, you can get them to conform to certain shapes, like going around the fairings, for instance, on this, getting around these corner pieces and things like that, using the same method, and pay a bit of attention to what you're doing, a bit of care, and take your time, and you should be able to get the actual body fairings to lay down smoothly without any problems. And again, that'll be over a flat base, it won't be glossed or anything. That's the method I've always used. I've never had any problems with silvering or anything like that, but hopefully I can show you on those when I come to them, that process. But I just need to trim this bit off here because that's just a bit excess that was on there, but for the most part that's looking okay to me, and I hope that that's useful. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.